Hello there, everybody. I think we've reached the stage now where Nigel Farage's return to frontline politics is inevitable. Make no mistake about it, Farage has given the Tories chance after chance to deliver on his deluded Brexit ideology, and naturally they haven't done so, and nor will they ever, because it isn't actually possible. This utopia only exists in Farage's head. I get the impression he was willing to see how the illegal migration bill would play out, but for those of us saying the small boats and Rwanda plan was just a huge distraction and a prime example of Tories kicking the can down the road, goodness me, that turned out to probably be the understatement of the century, because what has happened this week will likely change our political landscape for years to come. Make no mistake about it, the net migration figures that were announced this week is the final nail in the coffin of the already dead Conservative Party. Irrespective of your beliefs about migration or Brexit, this was the one issue Tories were clinging on to hope of fighting the election on. Yet, as we have found out, net migration could be as high as 997,000, which represents about 1.4% of our total population. 42,000 people crossed in small boats in 2022. That number is chicken feed compared to that net legal migration number. What you have to understand is, the reasons behind a high net migration number are completely irrelevant to Brexit voters, and they will never forgive the Tories for this. And the Conservative Party will receive the biggest drubbing of their lives unless they drastically change course by, God forbid, possibly exhuming the rotten corpse of Boris Johnson. But anyway, I do get the impression Farage will return to lead reform into the next general election. This is the subject of the video I'm about to play. Nigel Farage appeared on Channel 5, Storm Huntley's show that follows Jeremy Vines, and he got into a spat with Sangita Myska. She drops a few elbows from the sky onto the professional charlatan here, and it's quite an interesting watch. So let's do just that.
This is a spent force. Nobody wants to go back to the bad old days of having these very divisive debates within their own families and friend circles about whether or not we should Brexit. We've Brexited in some respects, not fully, because we're still trying to work all of that out. This morning, big story, Vauxhall saying we have to renegotiate Brexit because otherwise it's going to be 10% extra on costs and they will close their factory, meaning more unemployment in this country. He is a failed politician. Do I want to see him back? No. And with all due respect, please, Nigel, butt out.
Okay, well, on that note, Sangita, thanks for that. We'll speak to the main man himself. Nigel Farage, welcome to the show. You've just heard what Sangita had to say, but is this really on the cards as a comeback, or are you just teasing us?
Well, actually, I agree with almost everything Sangita said. Absolutely. I mean, there is no question that huge numbers of people who voted for Brexit did so to get back control of our borders. And what we've done under this Tory administration actually is to lower the bar for entry to the rest of the world in the most extraordinary way. And we're now headed for a net migration figure perhaps 4 times what it was in the year before Brexit. So the Tories have completely and utterly failed to deliver on what I think was the key deciding factor behind that vote. And when it comes to business, well, it really is hard to believe. But for the first time since the 1970s, we have a brain drain. People are leaving this country. And it isn't just doctors going to Australia. It's young men and women, entrepreneurs, are heading off to Lisbon and other places like that that are more competitive. A lot of big money is heading off to Dubai. And the problem we've got is we've got 2 parties, both Social Democrat, virtually indistinguishable from each other now in terms of the fact they believe in a big state, in high taxes, and they're totally relaxed about mass immigration, which is damaging the quality of life for most people living in this country. So what I'm saying in conclusion, what I'm saying is this, that I think the hope and the optimism that the Brexit result might bring a real change to the way politics was run in this country has been a complete and utter failure. And somebody, somewhere, is going to go and plug that gap. Now, it may be me, it may not be me. If it's not me, then Sangita, you'll finish up with a Nick Griffin type character.
I'm sorry, are you trying to say that you are the person that's going to save us from extremism and the far right? Is that an absolute joke, Nigel? When your language, your campaigning has kicked off a level of racist rhetoric in this country that I have never seen. I have lived my entire life here. This country is more divided than ever. People like you open the door to people like Suella Braverman, who use nasty racist rhetoric, weaponize immigration, weaponize immigrants, and they have made this country unsafe for a number of people who are British, and those people are non-white Britons,
Let
Nigel.
Nigel come back.
Now, just think for a moment.
Don't patronise me. I think pretty well, pretty logically, unlike you.
I said stop and think for a moment where we were between 2006 and 2009. We had the British National Party on the march. They were gaining seats all over Northern England. They gained a couple of seats in the European Parliament. They were well through 1 million voters, and they had huge momentum behind them. There is no doubt that their party constitution was openly and overtly racist and dangerous in many ways. And I came along and kicked their legs from under them. So I did more to get rid of the far right than pretty much anybody in this country.
You absorb the far right in this country. You go and you stand on the cliffs of Dover, you use a pair of binoculars, and you create a sense of fear amongst good, law-abiding people. And the idea that you're coming on national television and pretending that you're a defender of multiculturalism and minority rights is embarrassing. And let me also be very clear. Hang on a minute. 2006 to 2006, 2006 to 2009 is what you just mentioned. You've attempted to make it sound as though UKIP was ever a proper electoral force in this country. It was not. You never secured a single seat as an MP. And may I just add, the latest iteration of your politics, which is the Reform Party, has fielded hundreds of local councillors and managed to end up with 6 local council seats. That's it.
You may well have strong views, and that's fine. But let's just deal with some facts where you're entirely and utterly wrong. UKIP won the European elections in 2014. It was the first party to win a national election that wasn't Labour or Conservative.
I talked about MPs. Where were your MPs?
Since 9. If you don't want to listen, I'll go home. There's no point.
Well, why don't you just answer the question? Where were your MPs?
Finish. Nigel.
We'll try one more time, and then maybe we'll just give up. It was the first party to win a national election since 1906. In parliamentary terms, yes, of course, we won by-elections into the House of Commons in Clacton, in Rochester. So we did win seats in the British Parliament. Our problem, of course, was that we got 4 million votes and 1 seat. Never in the history of electoral politics have more votes resulted in fewer seats. But in terms of influence, look, there would never have been a referendum on EU membership. We'd never have left without UKIP. So it was a big force for change in this country. Now, you can agree with that change or disagree with that change, but to say that UKIP was irrelevant, I think is completely wrong.
OK, Nigel, I'm just going to interrupt here, and we're focusing a lot on the past. I would quite like to focus on the future and your potential comeback here. Now, with your permission, Nigel, we are going to do a ballot here, a vote of sorts, and we want your votes at home, whether you would like to see Nigel Farage return to politics. I'll start with the panel. I'm going to give that a big no from Sangita without even asking her. I think that's what that will be. No goes in there. Don, you're a yes?
What?
We'll end it there, because this is just stupid now. This is pointless. I think Farage is at the stage now where he's realised the whole thing is just completely unravelling for him. A net migration figure of almost 1 million, when he specifically assured the public migration would come down when free movement ends, is further evidence to just how ridiculous his lies were. His entire ideology is littered with inconsistencies. He's a free market capitalist who doesn't seem to understand we have many job vacancies that cannot be filled. So the government is attempting to bribe the old out of retirement and mothers away from their babies. Does he have any idea what our economy would look like if he had his way of having next to no migration? Who will do these jobs created by the free market he is such a passionate champion of? Oh, dear God. But anyway, I personally welcome his return to politics, if that is his intention, which it seems to be. And it's not because I think he has anything to offer, but a Reform Party led by Farage has the capability of ending the political careers of some of the worst politicians, the most useless of politicians we have ever seen. Whilst Reform themselves will only win a handful of seats, no more than 2 or 3, if that. It's the splitting of the vote that is the main aim here. Farage is likely aware his involvement will lead to at least 10 years of Labour government, but I guess he will just have to suck it up and deal with it. Anyway, what do you guys think? Should we be welcoming Farage's return, or would you rather he stuck to his GB News gig only? Let me know. Cheers for watching. Take care.